Mary C. Snow Elementary School is located in a neighborhood where it can be stressful to be a child. The west side of Charleston has gained a bad reputation for drug crimes and violence, and in 2014, the city of Charleston as a whole saw an increase in both criminal activity and violent crimes. While these crimes are usually committed by adults, that doesn't mean children aren't affected by them. And that's where the Handle with Care program comes into play. If a child is exposed to crime, violence, or abuse, police notify the principal and school counselor by the start of the next school day. Janet Alio is the school nurse at Mary C. Snow.
When I first heard about the Handle with Care program, I thought, that's the program for us, because we have probably 75% of our children are in some form of traumatized living environment from a day-to-day situation. Sometimes it's repeated belly aches or repeated headaches. We just had a situation recently where a child who normally doesn't come to the clinic started coming in every morning with a headache, with a headache, with a headache. And so at that, if I see that it becomes a pattern, or if they look like they may be in distress when they come in, then I will go ahead and talk to them, say, well, how was your night? What was, did anything happen over the weekend?
But it's not always clear when something traumatic has occurred in a student's life. The first step in the Handle with Care program is when police officers send schools a form after they respond to traumatic events with children present.
And this form just merely says the child's name, the date and time of the incident, and that's it.
Ms. Helm teaches special ed at Mary C. Snow Elementary.
When I start to see the emotion coming, I call it to attention and we talk about it.
She says Handle with Care helps teachers modify the way they interact with children who need special attention.
Because when you have a kid that's not typically acting out, then all of a sudden the child's acting out, for a teacher that can be frustrating. But if you know, okay, there's something going on with that child, then as a teacher you know, okay, let me look at things differently. Let me try to accommodate the child in a way that would help the child. Or let me see if, okay, I can get the counselor to talk with the child at that time. But I think more so when we know that there's something, then we know how to handle it in a different fashion.
The second step is where the school staff figure out what resources a child might need if they've experienced a traumatic event. Sometimes it's talking with a school counselor, or going to the health center for some extra sleep, or spending time in the library with the school's therapy dog, Paca. Or, if the parent gives permission, the child might also be matched up with a counselor who travels to the school. This is Ethan Napier and his mother, Lenitra Woodson. They're talking with Colleen Moran, a therapist with Harmony Health Services. She comes to the health center here at Mary C. Snow to help children cope with stress and traumatic situations.
Some of the types of things that we do are teaching relaxation. With children, a lot of times you'll use play activities to do that, such as blowing bubbles for breathing exercises, or teaching them to tense and release their muscles to get rid of muscle tension. If you do it in a way that's a game, they're much more likely to do it, and they don't realize that they're working and that they're making therapeutic progress. Play is a child's work, and that's how they work through things, and that's how they learn, and that's how they make sense of their world.
For many children, just trying to make sense of their world can be a struggle. In 2012, Ethan's brother Jalil Clements was killed when he was hit by a car on the interstate. Jalil was trying to wave down someone to help his mother, who was being beaten by her boyfriend in their car. The mental health center here was named in Jalil's memory. But for children who are left to deal with trauma all on their own, there can be fatal consequences. A report called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study found that children who experienced trauma early in life were more likely to abuse substances, smoke, and overeat. Children who experience abusive and stressful situations could lose as much as 20 years off their life, compared with children who grow up in stable, loving families. But teachers and other adults in a child's life can help if they know what to look out for.
Life does happen, and it's teaching them how to handle things when life happens, that we can still function, we can get the love, we can get the support, the nurture that we need. And basically when they come here and we get that Handle with Care, basically we look at what do they need and how can we help them, and then we fill in from there.
Ms. Helm recently visited a meeting with teachers from across West Virginia.
And in one of those meetings, a teacher brought this up, that there's so much trauma going on in their schools and they don't know how to handle it because they don't have the handle with care. And they don't know what resources do we tap into. This is an ongoing problem. It's a growing problem. And one thing they was emphasizing there is that they're seeing it more and more in their younger kids. And that's what basically we have here. We're seeing it in our younger kids.
The Handle with Care program has been supported without any extra funding, except for the resources already available to schools to help children who need mental care. The program is part of a collaboration between the Department of Justice and their Defending Childhood initiative, the State Department of Health and Human Resources, and the West Virginia State Police. These groups are now working to help bring Handle with Care to communities throughout West Virginia. There are also similar programs that have sprouted in other states. When President Obama visited West Virginia last year to talk about drug abuse across the nation, he took note of the Handle with Care program.
And I'd really like to see us advertise this more across the country and adopt this as a best practice.
With drug overdose rates in West Virginia the highest in the country, Ms. Helm says more and more teachers are noticing children who are dealing with abuse and neglect.
So it's definitely more prominent now than before. I think before we always thought it was just isolated to Westside Elementary, but now realizing, no, it's going on everywhere. And people are needing answers, they're needing support, they're needing to understand what is Handle with Care, because that question was asked there. And what do you do, how does that program work? And so definitely, it's much needed in other places.
But as drug abuse and domestic violence continue to barrage families across West Virginia, there simply aren't enough resources to help children deal with trauma. Harmony Health Services, which provides mental health services to the students at Mary C. Snow Elementary, is working to get a mobile mental health care facility for some of the remote areas of West Virginia. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Roxy Todd in Charleston.